Tonight, severe weather threat. Nearly 30 million Americans in 9 states in the path of danger, with strong tornadoes, hail, and damaging winds all in the forecast. Also tonight, bridge to nowhere, the latest setback in the distribution of desperately needed food and supplies for war-torn Gaza.
I'm Imtiaz Tayeb in East Jerusalem as negotiations for the release of hostages in Gaza look set to restart.
War of words. Special counsel Jack Smith has asked a judge for a gag order against Donald Trump. Why, he says, the former president could pose a danger to law enforcement. Motion denied. What a judge's new ruling means for Alec Baldwin and his manslaughter indictment. From the ashes, the 5-year journey for this centuries-old piece of Notre Dame, now back where it belongs. And later, Riding the Waves, the program that is helping veterans navigate life's sometimes choppy waters.
Yeah! Doing it, dude, you're doing it.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Adriana Diaz.
Good evening. I'm Christine Johnson in for Adriana. Thank you for joining us. It has been another day of dark, ominous clouds and dangerous storms brewing in the Midwest, along with hail in Mississippi, flooding in Arkansas. These storms could produce some severe weather. Let's get to the latest now on the forecast from Paul Goodlow with our partners at the Weather Channel. Good evening, Paul.
Well, Christine, we're already tracking some nasty storms out there, but there's going to be a lot more as we head on through this evening and overnight as well. We have a high risk for severe weather, including tornadoes. Our Torcon scale, which goes up to a 10. We have 7s here across parts of the Central Plains. Also, a widespread risk of damaging wind and some large hail, perhaps golf ball to maybe softball-sized hail with these storms. The radar, we're tracking these storms with severe weather as we head past midnight, but the storms keep going into pre-dawn hours tomorrow, blasting across the Mississippi River Valley. But wait, they keep going into the Ohio Valley throughout the day tomorrow into tomorrow evening, while another line develops behind this. So a very active holiday weekend for millions of Americans in terms of traveling, trying to get back home on Monday. More storms here across the mid-Atlantic. Airport delays, expect them especially later in the afternoon. Christine?
Paul, thank you. Today, CBS News learned talks aimed at reaching a deal to free the remaining hostages held by Hamas are expected to resume next week. The negotiations would take place with active U.S. involvement. For now, there is no letting up in the fierce Israeli bombardment of Gaza, and CBS's Imtiaz Tayeb has details.
Israel's relentless attacks on Rafah are only intensifying following the order by the International Court of Justice to stop its military operation there. Over the past week, the Israeli military has also been widening its bombing campaign across all of Gaza. This UN school in northern Gaza City, a shelter for civilians, was struck multiple times overnight. The blood of those killed still fresh as their bodies are prepared for burial. The devastating increase in violence has triggered a mass forced displacement of tens of thousands of Palestinians, many fleeing with what little possessions they have left to a fate unknown. As the Biden administration's efforts to get aid into Gaza falters, operations at the $320 million U.S. military-built pier were suspended today because of rough seas. The worsening violence follows the Israeli military's discovery of the remains of 6 hostages this past week. All are thought to have been killed on October 7th. And of the around 125 who it is believed remain, it's unknown how many are still alive, including Ali al-Ziadana's brother Yusuf and nephew Hamza, who were taken on October 7th. Every time we hear they find more bodies, it just increases the pain, he says. Al-Ziadana belongs to a Muslim Bedouin community in southern Israel, close to the barrier wall with Gaza. While they're Israeli citizens, their towns and villages are often neglected by the government.
It must be terrifying to think that Israel is continuing to widen its military operation in Rafah, knowing that your brother and nephew could potentially be there.
Yes, because our government and prime minister doesn't listen to anybody, he says. The whole world is calling on him to stop the war and to bring back the hostages, but Netanyahu doesn't listen.
And tonight, CBS News has learned negotiations to release hostages held in Gaza are expected to resume as early as next week. Qatar, Egypt, and the United States will participate in the talks in Cairo, Christine, but a Hamas spokesman is denying the group will take part.
MTS Tayeb, thank you. Today in Ukraine, at least 2 people were killed in an airstrike on the city of Kharkiv. The city and its surroundings have been the site of an ongoing Russian offensive. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his country's forces have secured what he called combat control of the region. And today, President Biden said he's determined to keep American soldiers out of Ukraine. But he said that the U.S. is standing strong with the embattled nation as it defends itself from the Russian onslaught. The commander-in-chief gave the commencement address at West Point as campaign 2024 heats up. Natalie Brand joins us from Washington with more. Good evening, Natalie.
Good evening, Christine. The president did not mention former President Donald Trump by name or the upcoming election, but he delivered a warning that's a key part of his campaign.
Nothing is guaranteed about our democracy in America. Every generation has an obligation to defend it.
President Biden urged cadets to remember their oath to the U.S. Constitution.
Not to a president, but to the Constitution of the United States of America. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
The president's address Saturday comes as his campaign steps up its attacks against Trump.
Trump wants revenge.
With a $14 million ad buy targeting battleground states.
I'm thrilled to be back.
Trump, for a second time this week, will be back out on the campaign trail tonight, trying to appeal to libertarian voters at their convention this weekend.
Is that resonating at all?
I don't think so. I think he's going to say anything he can to try to get more votes and push more people in his direction.
The former president's so-called hush money trial in New York is expected to wrap up and go to the jury next week. His supporters say they're galvanized by the court cases.
I'm pretty involved in politics, and I've never met a single person that is going to be swayed by this.
But in a new Friday filing in Trump's classified documents case, special counsel Jack Smith asked a judge to bar Trump from making statements that the DOJ argues endanger law enforcement. It comes in response to Trump's claim that FBI agents during the 2022 search of Mar-a-Lago were, quote, locked and loaded and ready to take him out. But in fact, the search was planned for a time when Trump would not be on property.
Now, Trump doubled down on that post today. Special counsel Smith argues Trump distorted the reality of the search and says agents followed standard protocol relating to all search warrants. Christine?
Natalie Brand, thank you. A judge has denied Alec Baldwin's request to dismiss the involuntary manslaughter charge against him. CBS's Jonathan Vigliotti joins us from Los Angeles with a look at the case against Baldwin. Jonathan, good evening.
And good evening to you, Christine. Alec Baldwin will likely stand trial later this summer. His attorney saying he's looking forward to his day in court.
Actor Alec Baldwin will be judged by a jury of his peers nearly 3 years after this New Mexico film set became a crime scene.
Alec Baldwin's motion to dismiss was really a last-ditch effort, a Hail Mary, if you will, to try and avoid trial. I don't think there was ever a lot of heft to that motion.
A Santa Fe judge Friday denied the actor's motion to dismiss the case after Baldwin's lawyers failed to argue state prosecutors withheld critical evidence from the grand jury that indicted him earlier this year. Baldwin is charged with involuntary manslaughter after a prop gun he was holding fired live ammunition, killing Rust cinematographer Helena Hutchins.
I take the gun out, and as it clears, as the barrel clears, I turn and cock the gun. I turn and cock the gun goes off.
When questioned by police shortly after the tragedy, Baldwin said it was not his responsibility to check the gun for live rounds and claimed the weapon was faulty and fired on its own. Rust's armorer was also charged with involuntary manslaughter, convicted in April, and sentenced to 18 months in prison.
There is a chance that he could be convicted. You can't, as a prosecutor, go forward with a case where you think there's no chance of a conviction.
And Baldwin has pleaded not guilty. If convicted, he faces up to 3 years in prison. Jury selection is scheduled to begin in early July. Christine.
Jonathan Vigliotti, thank you. It has been 4 years since George Floyd was killed by a Minneapolis police officer as other officers looked on. His death forced changes in policing, but critics say not enough has changed. CBS's Torian Small went back to Minnesota to find out.
I never thought I would see it look like this.
Does it hurt to see it like this?
Oh, this is terrible, man. It's absolutely terrible.
This intersection 4 years ago, the epicenter for protests and unrest following the murder of George Floyd, an unarmed black man by a Minneapolis police officer. Bloomington Police Chief Booker Hodges back then was brought in by the state to get the city under control.
I taught on riots, for a while here, and but there's no playbook for what we had to deal with.
No peace! Though that moment ignited a nationwide racial reckoning, activists say the fire in Washington appears to have burned out.
Most black neighborhoods in the United States of America where a black man is killed, either at the hands of the police or by community, it's just a neighborhood that just doesn't thrive.
But the White House is touting executive action the president has taken, including a nationwide database tracking police misconduct.
We've made progress. Are we where we used to be? Absolutely not. We want to be where we want to be? Not just yet, but we'll get there.
Getting there, the White House says, requires help from lawmakers. Floyd's family on Capitol Hill this week pushed for Congress to revisit police reform in his name.
My brother's life was stolen. So many other people's lives were stolen from them. And we continue to say we're going to talk about this George Floyd Justice and Policing Act.
Republicans' concerns over eliminating legal protections for officers stymied that legislation. Minneapolis Congresswoman Ilhan Omar says those partisan politics remain.
Voters know that Congress is divided on this issue. I hope that they utilize the ballot box to remedy that, because we need members who are serious about protecting people from police brutality in this country.
Polls show Biden's support among black voters appears to be softening, so the president's continued push for reform is now under a microscope by a crucial bloc just over 5 months away from Election Day. Torian Small, CBS News, Minneapolis.
Today in Washington, D.C., World War II veterans gathered at the majestic monument to their service. It was a little more than 20 years ago, after decades of delay, that the World War II monument opened to the public. It has since become one of the most popular sites in the nation's capital. 400,000 men and women died fighting Nazi Germany, Japan, and fascist Italy. Straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, cathedral comeback, a major sign of progress for Notre Dame. TSA record, well, you'll want to get to the airport early this holiday weekend. And Ocean Therapy, the program that has veterans learning how to catch a wave. A new milestone was reached this weekend at the Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris. 5 years after it was nearly destroyed by fire, a massive cross on the cathedral's roof is back in place. CBS News foreign correspondent Elaine Cobb visited the ironworks in Normandy that restored it from the ashes.
As the blaze engulfed Notre Dame, the iconic spire and the roof made of wood and metal were lost. Astonishingly, though, some of the famous ornaments from the church survived the fire. Among them, the 40-foot-high decorative metal cross that sat atop the lead roof of the choir at the back of the cathedral. As the flames consumed the roof, the cross, which weighs more than 3,300 pounds, fell onto the stone vaults of the choir. So while the metal was damaged, the cross did not melt.
The cross fell really early in the fire, so we were really lucky because the cross didn't burn a lot, and she fell just, it's a miracle.
Vincent Combe is in charge of the restoration of the metal and lead roofs of the cathedral. The cross was taken to this ironworks in Normandy for the complex and delicate repairs. Architect Axel Ponsonet was involved in checking it could be repaired to the original 19th century design by Eugène Viollet-le-Duc.
We were really happy to discover that we would be able to use it and forge it again and work with the metal that was here, because the cross was designed by Viollet-le-Duc, so it's a very important piece of Notre Dame.
Earlier this month, the cross was raised again at the workshop to allow the artisans complete the finishing touches, including the lead coverings and gold leaf and the symbolic dragon eating its own tail.
We have a lot of affection for this dragon because we will put again on the sky of Paris roof. So we have lots of animals. We have dragon, we have also dragon on the roof.
For Philippe Jost, in charge of the restoration project, it was an emotional moment.
It's one of these beautiful moments of the restoration of Notre Dame, because all the woodwork has disappeared, and it was possible to restore the cross. It was not easy.
The cross has now been restored to its former splendor and is back where it belongs, on Notre Dame. Elaine Cobb, CBS News, Paris.
Still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, a holiday travel day for the record books. Americans are flying this holiday weekend in record numbers. More than 2.9 million people were screened at airports by the TSA yesterday. That is an all-time high, breaking the record set last year on the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Thursday was the third busiest air travel day on record. He may be the world's most famous soccer fan. 87-year-old Pope Francis appeared at Rome's Olympic Stadium today to symbolically kick off a soccer match being played as part of the World Children's Day Festival. The Pope greeted children from more than 100 countries, handed out sweets, and also encouraged people in the stadium to shake hands with each other. The Holy Father talked about the importance of the day in an exclusive interview with our Nora O'Donnell. And you can watch the extensive interview, Pope Francis I, on Paramount+. Next on the CBS Weekend News, the program teaching veterans to surf the waves while soothing their souls. For many, the ocean is soothing, and now it is helping some veterans in California overcome emotional trauma after they leave the battlefield. CBS's Carter Evans went surfing to see for himself.
There's nothing like the thrill of catching a wave, the adrenaline rush, sensory overload.
And my lens widens. It's kind of surreal.
A surprisingly visual description from someone who can't see a thing.
A little 1 o'clock beer, there you go.
28-year-old Zach Tidwell was a machine gunner in the Marines. Today, he's doing a little group surf therapy with other injured and troubled veterans off the coast of Santa Cruz, California.
It's about building trust. Therefore, you can accomplish things that you never thought you could ever do.
Van Carrazza started Operation Surf more than 2 decades ago to help deal with his own demons.
My drug addiction sent me into a life of all about me. I realized thinking and caring about others was part of my journey of recovery.
Okay, stand up, go.
What we do at Operation Surf is not just to build connection with the ocean, it's actually to build connection with others.
A little bit to your left.
In the water, Zach Tidwell told me about his struggles with alcohol and how his life went into a tailspin after the Marines.
It caught up with me.
A bullet took his sight, but it didn't happen on the battlefield.
So you put the barrel of the gun right here?
Right here.
Wow.
Yeah. I went from what I thought was the lowest place to a lower place.
The Marine is now one of more than 2,000 veterans of Operation Surf. Research has shown spending time in the ocean can help reduce PTSD symptoms by nearly 40%.
Here comes one.
Surfing requires laser focus.
Woo! You're doing it, dude. You're doing it.
That quiets the mind by shutting out distractions. We're so in the moment, it took a while before I realized his guide didn't make the wave, and Zach relies on verbal cues.
Stand up, up. You got it. Yeah!
An incredible accomplishment for Zach. Infectious for the rest of us.
Dude, that was so awesome. That was just you and me. We lost your coach.
That's cool, man.
That was pretty awesome.
Once you're up, you're in the zone.
That's it, man.
An image I'll never forget, and he'll never see. Carter Evans, CBS News, Santa Cruz.
And there you go, a brand new friendship. That is the CBS Weekend News for this Saturday. First thing tomorrow, CBS Sunday Morning, and then it's Face the Nation. Margaret Brennan's guests include Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, and Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez. I'm Christine Johnson in New York. Have a good night.